Welcome everyone to today's LinkedIn Live session brought to you by commercetools. My name is Julia Rapkin and I will be your host today. Today we're diving into an exciting topic, digital synergies, boosting growth for manufacturers and distributors. I'm joined today by two distinguished guests. We have Khalid Salim, Vice President of IT Digital Platforms at Beacon Building Products, and Chris Baltuznik, E-commerce Transformation and Operations Leader at Owen Corning. Welcome both.
Thank you.
So let's first start with the elephant in the room. Chris, you're at Owens Corning, a manufacturer of composites material, fiberglass, insulation, roofing, and more. Khalid, you're at Beacon, a distributor of residential and commercial roofing products, as well as related building products. I'm sensing a bit of overlap here. I know both of you also have a background in automotive. What's the relationship here?
We followed each other, how about that? Yeah, I think both, I'll take on that. I mean, generally, if you look at it, even in the automotive space, it was related to distribution primarily, right? So it was a natural move from switching over from a distribution space in the automotive industry to, let's say, a roofing industry or something else. Mm-hmm. The other piece is, of course, in terms of overall industry as such, there is a lot of growth potential in the commercial and residential building space. If you talk about just the homeowner space, we are. If you look at different studies, people will say there are about 3 million shortage of homes. There are about 7 million shortage of homes in USA itself. So there's a lot of growth potential in that space. And in my opinion, supply chain is actually the technology of the future. So I have always sort of in the last 4 to 5 years went ahead with something that has to deal with supply chain or distribution so that I can be a part of that transformation journey.
Okay.
And then from my standpoint, I led e-commerce strategy for Goodyear Tire. So that's where my automotive background comes from. And then I kind of moved in my career to Owens Corning Building Materials. And I always said, tires to building materials. What a seamless transition, which is funny because now I found somebody who actually did those same footsteps, which is quite unique. But as of right now, Khalid and I, we work together from a manufacturer to distributor standpoint, so he's essentially a customer, I'm one of his suppliers.
Okay. So one thing I always hear about in the B2B space is that manufacturers and distributors are always fundamentally at odds with each other. Call it channel conflict, call it disintermediation. Do you agree with that, or do you believe that there is hope for collaboration?
I'll let my manufacturer twin talk about it first. But
So previously in my career, I have seen that conflict, right? So I was selling direct when I was at Goodyear Tire. Coming into Owens Corning, it was kind of the mentality of like I came in guns a-blazing and they set me straight to say, listen, we will not sell direct here. We have a value chain of our distribution and we do not want to disrupt that. So from that standpoint, I think as a manufacturer who now does not sell direct, I think the conflict is minimized. So now one of my main goals is not to drive business on a platform to sell for Owens Corning, but it's essentially a sell through distribution. So with that being said, one of my main goals is to figure out a way to help my customers grow like Khalid and help my products grow through Khalid, as he's essentially now the face of my brand and owning that end customer experience.
yeah, I would agree with that. I think 100% in the distribution space for sure. We look for making sure that we can satisfy the needs of our customers, right? But since we are not in the manufacturing space, we will always be looking at partners like Chris to make sure that we can deliver whatever our customers need. And in many cases, the collaboration actually has expanded if we were to look at our previous lives, because in our space, the product is not a commodity product, it's a specialized product. And how you get that product to the customer, it is not as simple as a commodity product. So this collaboration is even much more important than anything else or any other industry, because your customer wants a product in a specialized way. And if we partner better to provide that end goal that the customer wants for, ends up actually providing the best and quality service to them. We continuously partner with each other and trying to find means and resources that can help whether it comes to quality product, whether it comes to timely delivery of the product, as well as any other scenarios that the customer has when it comes to rebates, pricing, and all the other needs that require collaboration from the two parties on our side.
So do you think that if a business decides to sell direct, that immediately means that there's going to be channel conflict with the distribution chain? Or do you think that there is still, even with direct selling, there is still a way for everyone to win?
I think as a manufacturer, if you are going to sell direct, you need to develop some sort of product segmentation strategy and loop in your distribution. For instance, Khalid sells X, Y, and Z products at a high level, but he may not sell these other products. So as a manufacturer, maybe Khalid has no interest in those products because he doesn't know what the market is. Maybe we do take those to market and show the market size, and then from there, we show Khalid the analytics, the data behind it, how we're converting the traffic, and then Khalid says, okay, I'm actually interested in these products, and then we can talk about this collaboration. But I mean, to answer your question, there's nothing that I'm going to do without looping in my distributors, right?
So it really is this partnership that's in there for the long term.
Definitely. I mean, I think when you look at even our customer base, they are actually generally mostly contractors who are at a job site trying to build something for their customers, right? And for them, the key piece is a quality product delivered in a timely fashion, because the moment it is delayed, they are not able to deliver on some job that was supposed to be delivered at some specific time. So the collaboration is even more important, and how quickly we can get that product over to them. The other piece, as Chris mentioned, is there will be certain products where, for example, we as a distributor may not say, it does not fall into the key product segments that we play in. Maybe let's figure out a path forward, right? Or there may be a product that Owens comes out with, and they say, you know what, that is probably outside of the roofing or building product space, and we want to test out somewhere else. Okay, that makes sense. But then we can take some learnings from them and see how we can basically become the partner and the distributor for that specific product as well.
And really, to add to that too, it's like, also I'm exploring platforms that do essentially sell direct, but I'm not exploring them for purposes of like Owens Corning selling them direct. I'm developing an authorized reselling program so that I can go on something like an Amazon and I can kick off unauthorized sellers of our product who may be hurting our brand and hurting our profitability. They're listing at a higher price than Beacon's listing, right? So essentially I'm helping Beacon in that platform. And then conversely, I also am exploring it based on the categories, how they're driving, the volume. And then I can build this strategy where I say, okay, Beacon, we've built out the platform, the selling strategy on Amazon. Now we can leverage the relationship so Beacon can actually sell on Amazon if they choose to do that.
Yeah, that's crucial, Julie. I think sometimes you look at it, the marketplace strategy and approaches, and you're always like, okay, what is the end goal? I think one of the key pieces that Chris is referring to is you will find a lot of people trying to sell some sort of your product that are probably falling into that commodity product space without your consent, without your approval, or whatever content that they are using has no relevance to what you want to be there, right? So control of that is key, and marketplaces allow you for that. But then distribution could still be coming through the distribution partner like ours, because you want to leverage our scale. And any marketplace offers that. You connect to whichever partner you have, and then basically make sure the fulfillment, the invoicing, the POs, and all those pieces are handled through that. Now, there will be certain products who probably never will fall into that category because of the nature of what and how the building construction is done. But there will be certain products that could fall through that process, and then we become basically the distributor for them.
Well, that actually brings me to an interesting point, right? Because we're talking about brand building here, and we're talking about brand loyalty, brand recognition. So what is your take on how manufacturers and distributors should think about the consistency of the brand throughout the process and the importance of that for ultimately the end customer?
Yeah, I think in my view, from a distributor standpoint, the loyalty for the customer, for the manufacturer, comes in as partnership with the brand, with the distributor. Because number one, as you are serving as some sort of a brand ambassador in some shape or form. So if you can, in your loyalty program, and I always emphasize that in the B2B space, people always overlook the importance of a loyalty program in that space. So build up something that actually creates this loyalty with the customer for your distribution brand, and then embed capabilities, feature sets, or components that can tie back to a specific brand like Owens Corning into that space, that enable this relationship end-to-end to different verticals that we have. What we have seen actually is in our industry and in any manufacturer and supplier industry or distributor industry model, you would see there are rebates involved, there are other kind of situation involved where you're getting credits back to your buyers and so on and so forth. A similar model could be built into a loyalty program where you incentivize your buyers or your customers, end users, and that requires a lot of collaboration and partnership, right? And on top of that, you can incentivize many things, but then the incentivization actually at the end user level, if you're trying to sell a product to someone, it's all about how you indicate the quality components of that product as well as the value that it provides them. And that's where the partnership comes in handy, because the consistency of the data and the product details is very beneficial for us as well as the contractor who is doing an installation for a customer to say, you know what, now I'll tell you go with this brand versus that brand because of these X, Y, and Z features. So loyalty plus this collaboration in terms of how we incentivize the customer, and then on top of that, the quality plus the content helps out. And all of these three pieces, as I mentioned, require collaboration from each and every step, because without that collaboration, we can't go ahead and do things on our own. We can run a loyalty program, but that'll be very specific to our brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you just positioned that, especially with the loyalty program. Like, I think that's amazing that you guys are engaged in investing in something like that. Now, from my perspective, just not really previously not understanding the relationship between the manufacturer and the distributor, I think there's a common misconception that the manufacturer needs to completely own the brand and the distributor is not. Now, as a manufacturer who does not sell direct, Beacon is essentially the owner of our brand to the consumer. They own that consumer experience. So I think in that regard, it's almost more important for a distributor to invest and have a strong brand. There's a ton of consumers who will tell you that they will only buy from brands they know, brands they trust. So if I am seeing a pair of shoes, I know this is B2C, but that I want to buy and I see it in a party that I don't know, that I don't trust, whereas I see it from a distributor who I know I'm going to convert. They can even be a higher price point.
Very true.
And that's just the power of the brand. So I think it's for a distributor to invest in their brand based on what fits into their business model, what fits into their budgets. I just think it's going to be super important in terms of differentiating yourself from your competition. And you're more than the products that you carry.
I couldn't agree more on that for sure. I mean, and if you look at some of the collaboration that I've been doing recently with Owens, for sure, that is quite evident. And the collaboration can continue to expand in multiple spaces. That allows you to get to the customer the way you want it to be presented, and then how it emphasizes the value and the quality of the brand, whether it's our brand and from the distribution standpoint, because people are coming to us to buy their product because they know that we provide timely service and the quality of that is perfect, and they are looking for their product because they understand that the quality of the product is what they're looking for. So again, it's a multi-step collaboration. However, the value that you provide through that to the internal teams across the board as well as to our B2B customer becomes, it increases by many-fold as you basically continue to collaborate.
So both of you are digital leaders, right? And so obviously in your roles you have to think about technology, and obviously commercetools provide commerce technology. So digital commerce is blurring all of the lines of the traditional supply chain, and even Owens Corning making a conscious choice to, we're not going to go direct, even though in theory with digital channels you could, is an interesting choice, and also a commitment to the partnership and the relationships that you have with your distributors. So as each of you have has experienced multiple digital transformations, digital movements within your careers, what do you see as the biggest opportunities that digital commerce can bring to this relationship between manufacturers and their distributors? And if you want to speak specifically to Beacon and Owens, that would also be great.
Sure. One specific scenario, actually, me and Chris were just talking about that early on. In the digital transformation journey, data or content is always going to be the king, right? So whenever you have a digital platform, you will always look at capabilities that can actually enable the exchange of that information much more simpler and in a seamless fashion. When you talk about platforms like a PIM, it can be connected directly to their digital systems, and we can basically pull that information. That's one of the pieces that are enabling us to basically not having to rely upon somebody manually giving us the data. Take that information, put it into, let's say, talk about commercetools, we're plugging in straight into our PIM, and from PIM we take it to commercetools and then spread it across the entire digital ecosystem that we are using. Another key piece that I talk about as part of that is when you talk about other channels where they may be looking at testing out these one or two products which are not currently in our ecosystem, let's say, you can always have a connection with our API-based commercetools, embedded setup where the order is probably addressed or taken in another place, and then they're actually sending it over to us to fulfill. And we have full insights into what is happening. So the technology system and the ecosystem actually is the enabler for the customer no matter where they are. And it goes back to when you mentioned the omni-channel part, it's basically meeting the customer where they are. There will be many scenarios where the customers will actually be asking for, I need a hook into your system because my users use my platform, right? And at that point, as a manufacturer and a distributor, we can partner together and say, you know what, great. We have a platform, you can connect this platform this manner. This is how we're going to make sure that the content, the product details, the exchange of information is happening in a seamless fashion, published to your systems, and then the fulfillment is basically facilitated through our technology solutions.
And then from my standpoint, if I'm good at my job, which I guess it depends on who you ask, I have a good relationship with my distributors. I understand Khalid's goals, I understand his pain points, I understand his digital investments, right? And from there, we can work on those things with connection points. So maybe Khalid needs better enriched content, right? Maybe he wants to drive conversion on the platform, maybe he wants to do A/B testing, whatever it is. Maybe he mentioned looking for seamless connection points like PIM, like content syndication, something like that. Maybe it's just insights, data, and analytics on emerging trends, emerging technologies. So if I'm as good a partner as I want to be to Khalid, that's the conversations that we're having. That's what I'm providing. And it's all about growing the partnership. Like, how can I enhance his brand?
Yep.
How can I make him look good, right?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting here is the technology is obviously the enabler, but there's a very clear business strategy and vision and partnership that is really underpinning all of that. So I think that's very interesting. So maybe, from each of your perspectives, so Khalid, from your perspective at Beacon, how have digital channels facilitated stronger partnerships with manufacturers for you? And on the flip side, Chris, for you, reflecting on Owens Corning or any of your previous experiences, how are you as the manufacturer handling enhanced digital collaboration with your distributors? And I know you've both just given some examples, but I'm curious how you're thinking about it on a higher level.
Sure. You want to take that first?
Yeah, and I mentioned enriched content, and I feel like that's always a sticking point. I know you and I were just talking about it. It's, I think, a big miss in B2B is people don't invest in their content. So you always see like an image on white that's maybe not the best that's on the manufacturer's side to provide to the distributor, right? So from my standpoint, it's not only providing that enriched content to drive conversion, and also we'd be looking for, from Khalid's standpoint, some analytics, some tracking to show, all right, this is where we were at from conversion, from traffic on this image. We provided a more enriched image, and this is how it was enhanced, right? This is how sales are up, conversions up, whatever it is. And then it's like the platforms in terms of like connecting, right? How can we have like an ease of doing business play with Beacon? How can I make your life easier where we're not like sending over like Excel sheets. I'm not saying we're there, but we were there at one point, right? So it's those connection points through the PIM, through the content syndication platform. And most of these SaaS platforms are pretty advanced, pretty sophisticated, and have connection points within one another. So, but if we don't have these conversations, we're never going to figure this stuff out, right?
Yeah, very true. I think one of the key pieces that we talk about is the data, right? And when we talk about the data, it's not just the content about product, which we know that is must, right? But once that data is there, how do we show what it has done? Because if we can show, Chris, okay, you know what, you give me these 3 additional attributes, and these 3 additional attributes actually help customers buy this product more, not only in the digital channel, but because they saw it and they went into a store or branch of ours and bought it from there. Hey, that tells him that, okay, you know what, I need to make sure that all of my products show that those 3 attributes, if they have them, right? That's just one example. So how do we basically show a view, of course, without the PII details and all the other details that we can't share for sure, but making sure that when we make a change or when we partner to bring in some additional data component, give them a view of what it has done. Sometimes it'll do great, sometimes it will not do great. So again, it's a learning to say, you know what, nah, that didn't do what we expected to. Maybe we are missing something and we can actually change course and then react to that. So again, it's this mutual sharing of this data and information that helps us create or move and push towards a mutual goal, which is, of course, increasing revenue on both the sides, right? So that's the end goal. So that's what we are pushing for. Now, you can always argue that there will be data is one side of the story, right? What else is it, right? So again, as you're collaborating with his team and my team and our marketing team, of course, who basically oversee all of that anyways, they can actually be looking at things like, okay, what is the marketing campaign that you're going to run? Sometimes it's not just about the attribute. Maybe we have co-marketing campaigns where the manufacturer leads it, and then it basically goes through our platform for sell-through and so on and so forth. So multiple ways, but that collaboration is getting more and more, I would say, important, and you will see that people will realize that without this, it will be becoming very hard to have a digital cohesive ecosystem in the manufacturer and distributor space, because otherwise what will end up happening is you'll sort of maybe having goals which are moving towards, increase the revenue, yet the tactics underneath are not helping at all. They're going against each other. So
the KPIs and the measurements actually need to match the
Yes.
vision and the
Yes.
strategy.
Yes.
And if you're not measuring what you're doing, then how can you actually manage it? So I'm getting the sense that there's definitely a bi-directional push of
Yes.
information within this collaboration and partnership. And clearly here it's working very well, but have either of you experienced challenges with other distributors or other manufacturers in this regard?
I'd say the hardest part is right now relationships between manufacturers and distributors are owned by traditional sales teams. That's just the way it is. There's a huge missed opportunity on not being connected with digital teams. So I think there is a miss on connections between the teams. So if you don't have somebody in the roles that's willing to have those conversations, I think that's where the gaps are going to be. And also, you brought up a really good point just now. A manufacturer has to be willing to make investments within distribution to be able to drive products forward. So you mentioned like digital marketing campaigns. Absolutely. Like that shouldn't just be on the distributor. That should also be on the manufacturer to help drive their products in the market, to help drive conversion. It's only going to help the brand. It's going to help anything. Think about if you're using Amazon as a distributor, you're not having Amazon pay for that digital marketing, right? Like the manufacturer is paying for that. So it has to be the same strategy. Like it has to be a total partnership, budgets, investments, everything to make it work.
Yeah, I think in that point, I mean, definitely as you see, as time grows, that partnership is going to evolve into what the end goal is, right? And that end goal, of course, is going to drive some of that collaboration. But you know, in the grand scheme of things, we don't run into scenarios where we have per se an issue with the manufacturer. We have to collaborate with them all along. It's not that there's a manufacturer who's like, nah, we're not going to help you, or flip side, because I strongly believe we act as brand ambassadors for these manufacturers. So not necessarily per se an issue. I think some partners of ours could have a little bit more collaboration in the digital space as we continue to push for that ecosystem to be built out. In other cases, many a times you are actually relying upon this data exchange, which is probably not in a digital fashion anymore, or has never been, not anymore, it has never been, so maybe that's the opportunity. But what we are seeing, what we are observing is all the manufacturers are actually embracing that change and that shift. I agree that on the sales side of the house, we need to basically bring in tools to enable the spread of that information or that detail or that insights that help them actually make a case to the end user or end customer to buy that specific product from that specific manufacturer. So I always emphasize that in these kind of digital transformation, we look at the brand that you're trying to push, you look at the customer side, but not to forget the associate, because let's say the sales guys, they have to sell. So build these tools that embed that information that is coming from the manufacturer and then display it to them in a manner or share it to them in a manner that can make a selling case and an educated decision on behalf of the customer or for the customer.
So it's not just that you're thinking about the customer, right? Obviously everything is done in the best interest of the customer, but you're also thinking about your sales team almost as another group of customers that you need to enable and empower, also with technology, maybe same, maybe different. So from each of your viewpoints, how do you, with technology being such an enabler, how do you anticipate digital channels and digital technology will evolve to further empower your business and this synergy between suppliers and distributors?
Yeah, I think what I foresee as people embrace the technology and digital components more and more, and the next generation that is coming out there who are just used to their mobile devices and smartphones, they're hooked to it actually, there'll be an explosion in that sense because they don't know anything else. So they would want tools and capabilities that are readily available, because memorization power as you go into that for that generation is becoming less and less because they don't have to memorize anything. So they wouldn't need capabilities and tool sets through, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's on their laptop, that can have that information made available to them readily. So utilizing the data, utilizing the insights, utilizing sales insights, utilizing brand details, the loyalty data and all that, how do you make that quickly accessible to them at their fingertips would be the key. The tools that we are investing in are basically geared towards empowering the sales team, empowering the inside sales rep, the outside sales rep to have these discussions with them and actually tell them why this is more beneficial versus that, or what is the next delivery route that's going to be coming in, and telling the customer, okay, you know what, there's a delay, and so on and so forth. And same information in some shape or form that you are giving it to the associates, a portion of that should be made visible to the customer. Like Amazon has kind of changed that game, right? You expect wherever the order is, okay, tell me how many stops it's away from me. It doesn't matter where exactly that stop is. Okay, if it's going to be 4 stops, I can gauge how long it's going to take. 2 hours, 4 stops, great, thank you. So those kind of information you need to display, get it to the customer. And last but not the least, again, goes back to the detailed insights about the product. How do you make it easily available, not only to the customer, but the associate? So I see that continue to expand, and this partnership and collaboration continue to push for it, because I don't see other scenario around it. And the tools that I talk about is, it will start leveraging AI at that point, because today it will be probably you are going to be searching through a couple of PDFs or maybe a page that has all the details. Next step is you are talking to an agent, which is a virtual chat agent or something where you just through your voice are asking about X, Y, and Z, and it says, okay, you know what, these shingles, X branded, these are the details, delivered X, right? Or we have the next level of supply coming in from the manufacturer on this day, and so on and so forth. That detail of information could be all hooked to your entire ecosystem, available from the point of manufacturer to our customers.
So you brought up some good points around consumer buyer behavior and how buying behavior is evolving through technologies in the market. So I think you specifically said people are buying on their cell phones right now. How do we cater to them? That kind of goes back to more so of an omni-channel approach that we had discussed. How are you going to be present where your customers are buying? How are you going to cater to their needs, their wants, their desires? In terms of just building that overall strategy to be present. And as far as like technologies involved, like are they buying on mobile? Are they buying on iPads? How are you present in terms of leveraging those technologies for your customers who maybe prefer to research online, buy in store? How are you catering towards their needs? How are you leveraging that customer to drive success to your overall business?
Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you both. And finally, as a last question to wrap up, looking ahead as digital experts, which emerging digital trends and technologies do you believe will shape the future of manufacturer-distributor relationships in the B2B space?
Yeah, it's a great question, Julia. I think not to talk about AI in this space would be like missing the elephant in the room if we were to talk about it. But in the grand scheme of things, I strongly believe AI will help foster this relationship between manufacturers and distributors, and also enable some of the components that we talked about, namely in the supply chain space, where would you put what product, right? What inventory goes, and then secondly, what routes you would take to deliver that product, and then how quickly you can get that product from the manufacturers, whether it's a ship that they are getting into the port and you're getting it, and so on and so forth. All those pieces, machine learning and the power of AI can actually influence. And that's why I call it augmented intelligence, because in my view, it's not going to replace a human. In fact, it will help them make better decisions and much faster decisions versus what we are able to do today, going through heaps of spreadsheets or heaps of data and trying to finagle through what is going to be the case, versus a machine looking at this data and a view of what the forecast would have been like to say, we believe these are the 3 different scenarios that could happen, and then with sharing of that information, you can say, you know what, okay, I need this product here so that I can fulfill the needs of my customers faster. So in my view, leveraging that to enhance that relationship would be key, and it will be happening more and more. And then secondly, a portion of that will be utilized in terms of contract management. Many of it probably is done through negotiations that are done by humans. Now a machine can actually help do some of it for you based off of your historical buying patterns and delivery patterns. So I see that those 2 components acting in synergy and helping improve and foster the relationship that's there.
Yeah, strong points that I just want to add to. And it's funny because in the conference circle, every couple of years there's a new emerging trend of technology that they talk about, and it lasts for about 2 years. I think the previous one was, if you remember, the metaverse. Everyone was talking about how are we going to integrate into the metaverse. I don't think that one was too sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So now, within the past year or 2, it's been AI. So how can we not talk about AI and how that affects our business every day? To Khalid's standpoint, we need to be integrating AI into everything that we do. I've heard some wild things about how AI is going to be involved in our business, things that you would never think about from a customer service standpoint, from just like a sales standpoint, from anything. I mean, I'll give you for instance, even from like a consumer standpoint. In our business, building materials, I saw that you could potentially have a consumer type in, I'm building a house, I need, these are the dimensions of the house, what equipment would I need, how much would I need to buy, right? And it can tell you exactly what you would need, how much insulation you need to buy for your house, how many shingles, everything. So these are the ways that we need to start looking into and thinking about as our front end and back end processes.
Thank you both. This was really insightful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Khalid, for sharing your insights, experiences on creating digital experiences that foster the relationship between manufacturers and distributors. I think it's pretty clear that the future of these relationships is very much going to be enabled by technology, and I think we're all very much looking forward to seeing how these new technologies can help us innovate better and faster. So to our audience, thanks so much for joining us today. Don't forget to follow commercetools on LinkedIn for more exciting discussions like this one. Until next time, goodbye.